High Voltage Overdrive is here for Marvel Snap, and I've got some thoughts on it, and I've got some numbers I've crunched. Let's go ahead and dig on into the details. Before we hit those, though, for those that aren't familiar, this is a remix to the classic High Voltage mode Marvel Snap has rehashed a number of times. This time around, we have 4 turns instead of just 3, with the last turn not giving either player extra energy. There are also 8 additional charged cards added to each player's deck at the start of the game. These cards are kind of surged. They have -1 cost and +1 power. Every time a charge card gets played, it adds a charge to the reactor, and after 5 charges, the reactor explodes, adding its effect to the game. This does everything from adding a bunch of chimichangas to the board to destroying 2 of the 3 locations in a world ship-esque effect. You earn volts and experience by completing missions and winning games. So I want to start by giving you some objective facts based on the numbers around this game and how the shop and the economy with it works. And then I'll give you some of my deeply subjective opinions about how the game actually plays out with all these rules in place. Let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? The primary way you'll be acquiring volts in High Voltage Overdrive is the same as regular high voltage iterations. Every 8 hours, you'll get a set of 3 missions, a 125, a 250, and a 500 that have varying requirements, and this gives you a total of 875 volts and experience 3 times a day. Experience is a new thing with this High Voltage Overdrive. We have this track across the top here that has varying rewards, nominal amounts of collector's tokens and credits, and obviously boosters as booby prizes, because why not, with occasional extra volts mixed in along the way, all the way up to getting up to 25,000 experience here at the top, which gives you a kicker of 5,000 volts. To break down really quick, the total number of volts you can expect to get from just playing this game mode, assuming you get all the free ones, this mode is running for 8 days in total, so you can get 875 volts times 3 times 8 for a total of 21,000 volts if you clear every single mission and don't miss any logins. You also get 9,500 volts from the varying landmarks across here, assuming you farm your way up to 25,000 experience in total. And Second Dinner plans to send out a grand total of 8,000 volts directly to your inbox, the first 500 of which are already there that you can claim in game now, meaning that if you're clearing absolutely everything while winning 0 games of High Voltage Overdrive, you can expect to get approximately 38,500 volts from clearing all the freebies over the course of this 8-day event. So, what can you do with these bolts? Buy things naturally. There is both a new Series 5 card in Kid Omega as well as a new Series 4 card in Cobra available in the shop here for purchase. I was a little shocked when I saw exactly the cost on these things. Kid Omega costs a whopping 50,000 volts to purchase, and Cobra costs only 15,000 volts only, but it's not guaranteed to get him. You get one of these 3 things at random, 2 of which are variants. At least one of these variants is a higher series card, which you do get the base version of if you pick it up, but effectively, if you're a little bit lucky, it's going to cost you an additional 45,000 volts to guaranteed get Cobra from this game mode. This means in order to get both of the new cards, you'll need 95,000 volts in total. I know at this point, the wheels in some of your heads are starting to turn. Some of you are taking your socks off so you can count past 10 to figure out what you're going to need to do. I've got the numbers for you here. So assume you need this 38,500 volts from doing absolutely everything for free. That means you need an additional 11,500 to purchase Kid Omega. At 20 volts per win, this means you need approximately 575 high voltage wins over the course of 8 days, or 72 wins per day, because there's no volts for just participating. Let's say you wanted to get Kid Omega plus Cobra and you're pretty unlucky. You need to pull all three. This means you would need 95,000 volts in total, which would require you playing 2,800 wins over the course of 8 days, or a whopping 350 per day, which is obviously incredibly unrealistic. So naturally, when you go to buy this with volts that you don't have, they offer you the ability to spend gold. If people aren't familiar with Marvel Snap's price anchors, it's loosely 100 USD for 8,000 gold if you're not saving your free to play or slowly collecting it at that better rate from the gold pass. The gold pass gets you 1,800 gold for $5, which is a much more reasonable rate, but you can only collect it a day at a time. So this would take, 4 months worth of your daily gold pass in order to save it up. The base rate here for some of the cheaper things is it's approximately 11,000 volts for 2,000 gold, or 25 USD. I think the structure of the shop is really puzzling to me, coming from Marvel Snap's other limited time game modes. This is the very first time we've ever had a limited time game mode where you're not able to collect all of the free stuff and at least guaranteed get the one biggest prize. I think it's fine if the purely free rewards don't let you get absolutely everything in the shop, but not letting the free rewards let you get Kid Omega as a guarantee seems like a really big miss. You shouldn't expect your players to have to grind absolutely everything and then also spend extra resources on top of it. That's kind of like one of the core mantras of these types of games, or at least I thought it was supposed to be. You either spend your money or you spend your time, and in order to get Kid Omega, it's kind of demanding both of you if you're not a free to play player that's currently sitting on a small pile of gold. Another thing that I'm not a fan of at all with how high voltage is structured is how it demands you spend your time. This isn't unique to high voltage overdrive, but it's more of a drawback here because of the limited number of volts you're getting. And that's these mission refills demand that you have them done in specific 8-hour periods. Anytime mobile games require you to log in multiple times per day in order to get things finished, especially for something like high voltage overdrive, where it's going to sometimes take you 10, 15, maybe even 30 plus minutes to get all these cleared. It's just such a huge ask, especially when they're on these really tight timers. This 8-hour window means that for some people, you're going to have to literally adjust your sleep schedule around Marvel Snap, breaking up a good night's rest in order to min max your rewards. And normally, in regular high voltage in the past, I haven't really needled or hammered on this point because you get enough extra volts over the course of the event's run that you can skip even one a day in a lot of cases and still get that top reward. But with overdrive, meaning that even if you get absolutely everything, you still come up short of getting the top card. This deeply predatory need to log in and play on a very specific time schedule is even more punishing than before, because every time you skip one, you're going to have to be spending that much more gold at the end of it all. Another thing about this high voltage overdrive system that's incredibly baffling to me from a numbers perspective is that it's actually less efficient to roll missions to get extra volts than it is to just go into the shop and spend your gold on volts directly. When you're spending gold on volts directly here in the shop, it's loosely 11,000 volts for 2,000 gold, or 5.5 volts per 1 gold spent. When you're re-rolling missions and your missions are all used up, it's 300 gold for 875 volts, which is a little bit less than 3 volts per gold spent. You do get the extra experience for rolling your missions, which pushes you up along this track, but this track does eventually cap out, and you can get experience just for playing, meaning that eventually this extra experience becomes worthless, and then at that point you're spending gold at almost 50% the rate as it would be to get it in the shop. This is truly baffling because typically when you're spending a resource to play to get a resource, you should be getting a better rate than just converting one resource into another directly with simply a push of a button. To give a quick, deeply subjective take on the actual gameplay of High Voltage Overdrive, I personally have not been a fan. Adding random cards to both players' decks kind of makes every game that I'm playing feel like an Aeroshim mirror match, and similar to how Aeroshim decks got optimized in regular Marvel Snap, I would wager that the best thing to be doing with your deck that's really inconsistent is playing individually powerful cards. If every card that you're drawing is individually pretty good, it doesn't matter that your deck's going to be inconsistent because the bits that you find are all going to pull their own weight. This means it likely becomes optimal to play incredibly disruptive cards cards that break your opponent's stuff. Mobius, Shang, Loki's, Gorgons, etc. are some of the best cards you can be reaching for in this game mode, I would wager. I'm someone who really loves the deck building aspect of card games, so high voltage kind of encouraging you to just play good stuff mush with a dash of random a la Erishim Mirrors like we have in regular Marvel Snap really just hasn't been my cup of tea. In closing, I have to say this implementation of high voltage overdrive feels like a huge miss from me. I'm usually someone who can find a silver lining or at least a reason why it somewhat makes sense in Second Dinner's monetization decisions, but this game mode where you can both grind everything and still have to pay to get the one reward people really want really just feels pretty indefensible. I think the loudest message I can send to Second Dinner is not engaging with the mode, so while I played with it a couple hours today on stream to just see how it felt, I am not going to be playing any more of this, and I'm not going to be forking up the 100 USD plus worth of gold to buy Kid Omega. While I think Kid Omega is certainly a playable, reasonable card, I'm going to wait to buy it with collector's tokens when it comes that way, because not engaging with a limited time game mode like this is definitely the most important metric Second Dinner is going to use to measure its success. If we all just complain a bunch, but then also log in 3 times per day to collect all the rewards, then also spend some gold, you better bet your bottom dollar they're going to have more of this in the future. From a non-monetization standpoint perspective, I would really prefer these limited time game modes have interesting deck building in them, and I feel like the random card element that this had really detracts from that. I honestly feel like if they wanted to have this game mode be more random so it could be more casual feeling, I think that would be fine, but they should go all the way and lean into that. Make the deck list simply be fully random instead of you picking some cards, so that way there's not tech card mush being optimal on most sides of the board, and it really is just random BS go instead of some random BS go with lots of Shang-Chi's, Mobiuses, and others in the middle. I also think it's super unfortunate that this high voltage overdrive is so mediocrely implemented, and it's going to be a lot of players' first experience with Snap's limited time game modes. I know personally a lot of people came back to the game with the sweet economy rework that launched recently. This is one of the first limited time game modes we've had since then. For those of you out there who are entering Snap for the first time or coming back since they started doing these, this is one of the worst implementations we've ever had, and I think basically all of the other ones at this point are better. They typically give you a guaranteed new card at a pretty fair, reasonable rate of play and time invested, and I really hope they consider returning to that in the future. As always, I appreciate everybody that made it all the way through the end of the video and listened to my somewhat lengthy ramblings today. If you appreciated what I had to say, be sure to smash that like button and leave a comment down below letting me know what your thoughts on high voltage overdrive and its implementation are. If you have any new here, consider subscribing to the channel as well. I cover Marvel Snap news, giving both objective and very subjective takes on them like you found in this video, as well as weekly deck list roundup. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of the metagame, you should subscribe and come back again sometime. Thanks for making it all the way through to the end. I hope your next snap pack, whatever it is an excellent one.